Welcome to the channel SkoposGaming. So some of my viewers have asked, how do I have such clean gameplay? How can you hit them all smoothly? If I try that most of the time, the enemy will just block my special attacks. So in this video, we will learn how to land unblocked specials. But before we go to the how, let's first go to the why. Why do we want to land unblocked specials? Well, it's a fighting game. We want to knock out the opponent ASAP. Duh. So yes, that's one of the reasons why, because when we are able to land unblocked specials, we are able to knock out enemies faster and finish matches quicker, and this will increase the overall grinding efficiency of any mode, whether it's story mode or survivor or a multiplayer mode. On the flip side, if you do not manage to knock out the opponent and he tags out, he will slowly but surely build up power on the sidelines and then come back to haunt you with a special or even a super move. Also, if you fire a special and the opponent blocks, there's a 50% special damage reduction, so you'll be dealing a lot less damage. Plus, it reduces critical damage chance to almost 0%. Almost 100% of the time, when the opponent blocks, your special damage won't crit. There won't be critical damage. So this is why we do want to land unblocked specials, because they'll be able to deal the full damage instead of dealing only 50% of the damage, and that we will have a chance to deal critical damage. Now that the why is out of the way, let's go to the how. Now there's a principle behind landing unblocked specials. As we all know how annoying the AI tends to be, the AI is notorious for block spamming. In light of this, how do we overcome the problem of the AI blocking our specials? We need to study and recognize the AI's behavior. And that the AI's behavior governs the principle behind landing unblocked specials, and the principle is called performing a counter hit. So counter hit, that's the formal term used to describe essentially landing an unblocked special against an enemy when the enemy is in the middle of an attack animation. Now I know a lot of you have described this as frame trapping, but that is not 100% accurate to use, because frame trapping involves you, the player, attacking first and leaving a gap between your attacks, and when the enemy attacks you in that gap, you've trapped him in that frame. So that is the real definition of frame trapping per se. And so a more accurate term to describe what we do in Injustice Mobile is actually performing a counter hit. And counter hits is the main way of landing unblocked specials on the AI. Basically, the AI doesn't just stand there and let you attack them. They'll always try to block. And so you need to catch them when they're in the middle of an attack animation to fire a special, so that they are unable to recover quick enough from that attack animation to block, and that's how you're able to land an unblocked special. So the timing to perform a counter hit is tricky, because there's a very small window to catch the opponent in the middle of an attack animation. So we're talking about milliseconds here. If you use your special too quick, before he even starts attacking, then he'll immediately revert to block, and you won't be able to deal the full special damage. But if you wait a little too long, he would be already attacking and hitting you, and you're unable to use a special. So the sweet spot is the moment he moves slightly to start his attack animation. That is the opportunity when you need to use your special immediately to catch him and perform a successful counter hit. Timing is very crucial here. So what you want to do, you want one finger to be hovering over the special 1 or special 2. You want to be ready to hit that special as soon as possible. And you want to observe, you want to look at the opponent's body movement. The moment he shows any hint of starting an attack animation, you immediately use your special. And that's how you perform a counter hit, which essentially means this is how you land an unblocked special. So all the different ways I'm gonna explain on how to land unblocked specials in this video revolve around the principle of performing a counter hit. Okay, that's why I'm spending a few minutes to explain the concept of this. Alright, so now on to the fun stuff. How do we exactly land unblocked specials? So off the top of my head, I have a list of 10 different ways to do so. And I'm gonna start off with one of my favorite methods. It's called bait and punish. So as the name implies, you bait the opponent by using a light or heavy attack, doesn't matter. You tap or you swipe once, and because of the AI's behavior, they will block, and after they block, they will immediately retaliate with an attack of their own. So usually, if we're not prepared, our attack would be blocked, and the AI would attack us, and we would just be hit. So that's usually what happens. But if you already anticipate that and you know the AI will retaliate after blocking, you don't let him do so. Instead, you bait him, you perform a basic attack, he blocks. While he's about to attack you back and he's in that attack animation, you fire a special. So bait and punish. Now, what happens if the AI doesn't block when you use a basic attack? Well, we'll move on to the next method, the knockdown. So the knockdown is, again, as the name implies, you knock down the opponent, whether with a basic or special attack. And when the opponent is getting up from the ground, the AI behavior is such that he will immediately stand up and retaliate. He will stand up and attack you immediately. So that's the AI behavior. And how do we capitalize on that behavior? On the knockdown, enemy goes down, he comes back up, he's about to retaliate, in his attack animation, that's when you fire a special. And because he is in the attack animation, he wouldn't have enough time to recover and use a block. So that's the second method, knockdown. The next method is really popular. I call it the turtle. So how do you do it? You block. Okay, you're in a blocking position. You let the opponent attack you while you block. And when he is in the middle of his attack animation, you fire off a special from your blocking position. So this will ensure that the opponent will receive the full brunt of your special attack damage. This is a very safe method of playing. You're on the defense rather than the offense. The next method is called the run-in. So again, after using certain basic attacks or specials, sometimes you'll notice that the distance between your character and your opponent increases, and both of you or either one of you have to run in to each other to get back into fighting distance again. So on the run-in, the AI behavior is such that he'll immediately try to attack you then. While he's trying to attack you, you fire a special move, and that's how you're also able to land an unblocked special. The next method is very interesting and fun to use. It's called the chain, or chaining from your basic attacks into your special attacks. The Injustice Wiki calls it basic special combo. You can call it whatever you want. I just like referring to it as chaining from the basic attack into special attack. So there are a lot of characters who can actually do this. Notable examples include Rebirth Jessica Cruz, chain her heavy attacks into her special 2. Teen Titans Raven, also chain her heavy attacks into her special 2. New 52 Shazam is able to chain from his heavy attack into his special 2. Batman Ninja Lord Joker, you can chain 2 light attacks into his special 2 as well. Another example would be all versions of Wonder Woman except the Dawn of Justice one. You can chain their heavy attacks into her special 1. So you can check more of these combos on the Injustice Wiki. There's an extensive list there. But that's another sure way of landing an unblocked special. And this is definitely what I prefer because you're more on the offense than defense. You're able to kind of dictate the tempo of the game. While you're chaining your attacks, the opponent is helpless in the air, and it's just so satisfying to, land an unblocked special this way. The next way to land an unblocked special is what I call the interrupt. So even if you're in the middle of being attacked or hit by the enemy, if there's a gap between the opponent's hits, you can also fire a special move. So usually in such circumstances, when you're being hit by the enemy, you will not be able to retaliate with any basic attacks because you're in the state where you're being hit and you're unable to recover. But you can recover if you have enough power to use a special 1 or a special 2. Those are the times when you're able to get out in the middle of being attacked. And that's why I call it the interrupt, because you're interrupting the opponent while he's attacking you with a special. The next way to land an unblocked special requires a higher level of skill. It's what I call the top up. So when you look at the power bar, it's almost full for a special 1 or a special 2, but it's not, and you can gauge or eyeball it that it's like one basic attack away from being full. So with the knowledge in mind, when you're near the enemy, you use a light or heavy attack. You tap once, you know the opponent will block. At the same time, that tap fills up your bar of power to full, and you're able to use a special immediately. And that's how you're able to land an unblocked special. So this requires more skill because from experience, you'll know whether one tap is enough to fill the power bar and subsequently fire off a special. So if you're a more advanced player and have a greater gear collection, gears will also help you to land unblocked specials more easily. So if you have gears like the Master's Death card, you can tag in, and while the tag in damage is happening, the opponent is being hit and is kind of in a flinching state and is unable to block. That's when you fire off a special. So that's another way to land an unblocked special if you have the Master's Death card gear. Also, if you have the Astral Harness, it's even easier. You basically stand there while the shield is up and you let the opponent attack you, and while he's in the midst of an attack animation, you fire off a special. Simple. Now, if you have the Tanu Totem, you can perform what you call a post-special move. So if your first special is able to knock out the opponent and the next enemy tags in, the behavior of the AI is such that that next opponent will try to attack you. Because sometimes after a special animation, you are still kind of stuck in that post-special state and you're not able to recover fast enough to start blocking. A notable example of this is Gaslight Batman. I mean, he is completely open and vulnerable after a special 2, right? We all know that. So imagine he uses a special 2, he knocks out an opponent, the next opponent tags in, he is completely vulnerable, he is stuck in that state and is unable to block or do anything, and so the next opponent will try to attack him. So with the Tanu Totem, his power is refunded, and you immediately fire off another special when the next opponent is about to attack you. Post special, you fire off another special. That's another way of landing unblocked specials if you have the Tanu Totem gear. I do demonstrate this a lot in my multiplayer gameplay videos. The next method is the stun. So pretty self-explanatory. You set up the enemy to be attacked with a stun with one of your characters so that your main damage dealer is able to fire a special unopposed. When the enemy is stunned, it's completely vulnerable, it's unable to do anything at all. So easy way to land an unblocked special there. Some examples include Static's Special 1, very useful because it has a 100% chance to stun. Hawkgirl's Special 1 has a chance to stun. Earth 2 Flash's passive enables Earth 2 teammates a chance to stun and tag in as well. So these are just a few examples of cards that can stun and set up the opponent for your main damage dealer to finish him off. And last but not least, block breakers. So this is almost like cheating. I mean, it's not cheating, but certain characters' passives have the ability to break block, and so you're able to land unblocked specials with ease. So examples of cards which have block break in their passives include Prime Ares, Blackest Night Batman, Arkham Knight Batgirl on her specials, as well as Arkham Harley Quinn in a full Arkham team. So any Arkham teammate, when they fire a special, has a chance to block break, especially if it's a multi-hit special 2. So the more hits, the more chance to block break, the more chance to land unblocked specials, essentially. But yeah, that is dependent on a character's passive. Obviously, not every character has the ability to block break, but those that do, they're pretty strong and annoying, depending on whether they're on your team or on the enemy team. Learning and knowing how the AI works will help you to decide which method or way you want to use to land an unblocked special. The way each character in the game is coded is different. So some characters tend to be more aggressive, and some characters tend to be more defensive and block spam, right? So the more aggressive the AI, the better. Why do I say this? Well, If they're more aggressive, they'll tend to be wanting to attack you more, and so they'll actually be more vulnerable because they'll be in that attacking state more often than not, right? And that's where you're able to capitalize on performing a counter hit. Whereas the more defensive the AI is, the harder it is for you to successfully land an unblocked special. Cards like Suicide Squad Deadshot, he is largely known to block spam, and so you will find that it's harder to land an unblocked special. So you gotta use your discretion and observe the AI behavior. Every game is different. So you enter a match, you read the AI's behavior. So for aggressive AIs, the bait and punish method is great. You can also use the run-in method to land unblocked specials. But if the AI tends to block more, then you would want to use the turtle. You want to wait it out because you know if you even try to use the special, he's going to block anyway. So you wait it out, you let him attack you first and turtle yourself and perform a counter hit then. So that concludes my list of ways to land unblocked specials. I'm sure some of the things I covered are not news to a lot of you, especially veteran players. I'm sure a lot of you already know some of the information or all of the information that I've provided. But for those of you who are just starting out, this would hopefully help you in improving your gameplay, being able to be more efficient in finishing matches and landing unblocked specials. Let me know in the comments which is your favorite method of landing unblocked specials. As always, thank you so much for watching. You guys take it easy. I'll see you soon.